And good afternoon, everybody. I'm Gabriel Aloisi, founder of Shake Creative, and I'm chatting today with Nick Friedman, co-founder and president of college Hunks Hauling, Junk, and Moving. How are you doing today, Nick?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks for being here. We're going to talk to you a little bit about branding. So my first question for you today is, moving is one of the most stressful events in someone's life, and the college Hunks brand is all about creating that stress-free environment for the client. How important is it for your brand to relieve the pain points for your customers, and what happens when you do that?
Absolutely. So, one of our focus areas as a company, as a brand, is to provide a memorable customer service experience. And we've got great opportunity because moving is actually number 3 next to death and divorce as the most stressful times in people's lives. So we have a great opportunity to provide people with a memorable experience so that ultimately they're going to talk about us, they're going to tell their friends and neighbors about us, and they're going to use our services again and become loyal brand angels, which is ultimately what you want to happen as an entrepreneurial business, and especially in the industry of moving, which is highly competitive. So for us, we make it really a big part of our core competency is to be sort of a source of relief for our customers as opposed to an added source of stress, which tends to be the case most often when people are moving. So we also we get our employees to understand that, because that's really what it boils down to, is the experience that they provide, and we try to get to empathize and understand what our customers are going through. It's not just about the moving day, but it's also about when people buy or sell their home or their lease is up. They had to go through the process of applying for a mortgage. They had to go through the process of showing the home, and all of that adds stress. They had to go through the process of putting a down payment on their new home, and so all of that just builds and builds and builds the stress levels. And if we can get our employees to understand that, where our customers are coming from an emotional standpoint, it gives us a leg up to be able to empathize and help, I guess, brighten their day in some way or another.
Yeah, that makes total sense. When I was on your site, I noticed your brand has a set of 4 core values. Why are core values so important to a brand, and how does it create a seamless experience for your customers?
So when we first started, we didn't really understand the whole notion of company culture and what does that mean to have a company culture. And we've read a lot of books, we've gone to a lot of speakers of successful entrepreneurs, and one of the recurring themes of businesses that really withstand the test of time is that they have core values that are actually lived, talked about, celebrated, and rewarded or recognized within their organization. They're not just a set of ideals that are placed on the wall in the lobby and then never talked about or lived by the staff. So we came up with 4 core values. Our core values are always branding, building leaders, creating a fun, enthusiastic team environment, and listen, fulfill, and delight. So those are our 4 core values that we tell stories about at each and every one of our company meetings. We reward and recognize our franchise owners and employees when we have the opportunity to do so as individuals who have lived the core values. We use it as a litmus test for who we hire, who we don't hire, who we fire, who we let go, who we sell a franchise to, who we decide not to sell a franchise to. So it really becomes sort of a guiding beacon for what the company stands for, and allows us to attract people that fit in well with those core values, identify with the core values, and so that is what creates the company culture, which ultimately creates the customer experience, which ultimately allows the business to thrive and endure the test of time. So it's extremely important. And the way we came up with those core values is we actually did the exercise that Jim Collins recommends in his book, Good to Great. He calls it the Mission to Mars exercise. So he says if you were going to send a handful of your best employees to a foreign planet, let's say Mars, and they were going to be observed by aliens, and the aliens didn't speak our language, all they could do was observe how your best employees conducted themselves, what are the characteristics or values or ideals that your best employees embody that would be the reason why you would choose to send them to best represent your company? And so we did that little exercise several years ago. And one of the, and that's how we developed our 4 core values. And, some companies have 10 values, some have, 6 to 8 or whatever the case may be. And a lot of them are sort of iterations of each other. But, we felt like 4 was easy to remember. We could expect our frontline staff to remember them. Monday through Thursday, we talk about a different one of the 4 core values, and then Friday is sort of a grab bag of the 4. So that's kind of something that we've done in our business that's worked very well to create loyalty from not only our team and franchise owners, but of course our customers as well.
Yeah, when the customers come to you, then they know what to. When they interact with one of your employees, they get the same interaction when they're talking to anybody in the company, I take it.
Yeah, well, that's the goal, especially as a franchise organization. McDonald's doesn't make the best hamburger. They make the most consistently mediocre hamburger in the country or in the world. So you go to McDonald's in any city across the globe, you're going to pretty much get the exact same hamburger, and that's what people expect, is what they got at one McDonald's will be the same they get at another one. And for us, our consistency of service, of customer experience, of engagement with the client at the different touch points that we have, it's got to be consistent if we're going to be a successful franchise brand.
Sure, I love that analogy. You invest a lot into your team in terms of education. You even have a Hunk University. Why do you place so much emphasis on creating leaders, and how does it affect your brand?
Building leaders being one of our core values is something that I'm very passionate about. I started the company when I was in college. I had gone through college and grown up, being taught to follow the very traditional career paths. So I was never really exposed to entrepreneurial thinking, to leadership, to skill set that could make me more valuable in the professional world, whether it would be starting a business or going on to add value to another organization. So employee development is really key for us because we want to stay true to sort of our entrepreneurial and collegiate origins. But we also, our name, College Hunks Hauling Junk, our employees are what the customers are buying. They are buying the guys that are coming into the customer's home to haul their junk away or to move their items. And so we have to be able to create a level of employee engagement where the people that work here feel like they're growing in their career path, where they're not just lifetime or full-time junk haulers and movers, where they're actually future leaders developing skills like customer service, sales, marketing, problem solving, financial decision making. And if we can help develop those skills, not only are they going to add more value to the company while they're here, they're also going to go on to do great things, and potentially some of them may grow within our organization, as many have grown to eventually own their own franchise or manage an operation or manage a department. And so we celebrate sort of these building leader stories whenever we have those successes. And we also even celebrate, when we do have someone leave the company to go do something great, and they will credit what they learned here during their time here as allowing them to step on to the next level of their career path. That's
awesome. Your brand gives a really personal impression when you come across it. It's evidence in your design, the copy, the terminology you use, and even your mascot. It seems homey rather than slick. Why did you go this route, and why did you stick to it?
Well, the name obviously is pretty catchy, and when we first came up with it, that was just that. It was a name that sort of sizzled and stood out from a typical junk removal or moving company. But the emotional reaction that the name and then ultimately the experience that people had when they hired us, really we saw there was a strong emotional connection that people identified with. They liked helping young people. They liked the notion of hardworking college students coming into their home or office to do this type of work. And what it does is it elicits a level of trust in our brand, in our employees, in our company. And trust and care, I think, are two of the biggest emotions when it comes down to people moving or letting anybody come into your home, which is your sort of private domain. And so we've tried to, I guess, highlight or magnify those elements of our business and of our brand that people tend to gravitate most towards. And when we did start, it was a little bit slick. Again, there's the potential to be slick or to be just sort of a sizzle brand that doesn't have any stake behind it. It doesn't provide a true experience that measures up to what people are thinking they're going to get when they call us. And so that's why we've put so much focus in on customer experience, customer service training, and making sure that we're delivering on that brand promise, which, as you mentioned, is that stress-free moving or hauling experience.
Excellent. Now that you're over a decade into this business, what changes have you recognized in the behavior of your consumer from when you started out until today?
Well, it's interesting. We started in 2005, and in 2005, the economy was booming. All we had to do was put our truck out on a busy intersection with our logo, put some signs out, and the phone would start ringing because people needed junk hauled away, people needed moving assistance. And then, of course, in around 08, 09, a lot of that started to dry up. So we had to get a little bit more strategic in our marketing and sales approach because it wasn't just a matter of putting the name out there and the phone would ring. So that, I think, actually made better business people of anybody that actually got to experience those few years of downtime economy. And now we're seeing that the economy is starting to bounce back a little bit. We're seeing signs in the housing market, signs in buying decisions that are really indicating, at least right now, consumer confidence is improving. But I think one thing that is significantly different now than when we first started the business is that mobile and social media was at its very infant stages back in 05. Facebook had just sort of launched. There was no such thing as Twitter. The mobile phones and iPads were not as robust or strong as they are now. And so now, over 33% of our web traffic comes from mobile devices. Back when we started, it used to be that if you had a happy customer, they would tell one person. If you had an unhappy customer, they would tell 10 people. Well, now it's if you have a happy customer, they may or may not tell people. They may or may not share it on social media. But you better believe if you have an unhappy customer, they're going to let the world know on their Facebook, Twitter, Google reviews, Google Plus, Yelp, and everyone else, how negative that experience was. And so the stakes are actually a lot higher from a customer service perspective than they ever were. And I think expectations are actually higher from a customer service perspective as well. So that's really raised the bar in our industry and in our business for how we adjust to that.
Yeah, I've heard from a lot of different entrepreneurs and business owners that the consumer is just a harder nut to crack these days. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. I think the consumer's bombarded with even more marketing messages than they ever have been. Now it's not just about TV, print, and billboards. It's mobile advertising. It's all the news feeds and everything else. It's just hitting consumers. And so I think not only are consumers overloaded with messages, but they're also realize that they can make much more informed buying decisions than they ever had been previously. I think in general, statistics will say that people's buying decisions are based on emotion, and then they'll justify it or rationalize it after the fact with logic, or their first purchase may be based on emotion, but then if they decide whether or not to come back, it's based on the experience that they had. But now more than ever, you can research a company, you can research a company's reviews, and so there's sort of the old school advertising approach of psychological advertising that would help coerce people into buying or elicit fear from people into buying or whatever the case may be. Now it's more sort of an educated consumer base that they can tap into their friends, their neighbors, their online reviews to make those decisions.
Yeah, that's excellent advice and great insight. Your brand makes a point to do a lot for the community and local charities. And in what way has that strengthened your brand and raised your profile?
Well, I would consider ourselves a value-based, purpose-driven business, and that's something else that when we've read books and seen successful entrepreneurs and business owners speak, something that will allow any organization to withstand the test of time and the economic cycles is having a loyal employee and client base and ultimately a loyal community, because when things do get tough, it's not just about the bottom line or the revenue dollars that make the difference. So for us, we've always been intent on being purpose-driven and being community engaged, and having support from the community that we service. So with that, we do get involved in a lot of charity. We do a lot of strategic partnerships with nonprofit organizations like a Goodwill, where we can actually, instead of disposing or discarding the items that we're hauling away, we're able to donate or recycle a significant amount of those items to get them back into the community. And so not only is it the right thing to do, not only does it sort of fulfill our company purpose, which is to move the world, and that's sort of a dual meaning. Obviously, we're a moving company, but we also want to move people emotionally. But it also does have an immeasurable return on the business itself, where it creates a level of support that you can't tie an ROI to, but it's there. It opens doors through connections, through opportunities, through media attention. That it may not be the main goal of doing those charitable efforts to receive those results, but it happens as a byproduct of it, and we've seen it happen time and time over. And so ultimately it just sort of becomes this big snowball that more good things get done, and then more good things come back to benefit the business as a result of it. Right.
What other ways have you found work best to connect your brand to the modern day consumer?
I honestly think the biggest thing for us is through our employee engagement efforts, because we have at this point over 500 employees nationwide that work for our franchise owners, and so those are 500 potential brand advocates out there on a daily basis. But these are frontline staff. These are guys going and hauling and moving stuff for $8 to $12 an hour, plus tips. And so if the more that we can create sort of engaged and effective leaders within our organization, the more they're going to be able to connect with the end consumer who's experiencing our service. And that's really been the most effective tool. And we've done some cool contests with our employees to help promote and encourage that. For example, we did a happy customer photo contest where they would take a photo with their flip phone, with their iPhone or camera phone, submit it to our corporate office, and this was a photo with the customer at the end of the job showing how happy the customer was. And so that all of a sudden not only creates an employee that's motivated to try to make the customer happy, but it also helps the customer feel good that they're contributing to this employee's efforts to be recognized by his organization at a higher level, and it just creates more of that personal loyalty from the consumer, and so I think engaging your frontline staff in your brand mission ultimately helps them create that engagement with the community, which ultimately, again, helps the business grow.
Excellent. As you've grown, you've added more service offerings, valet trash, portable storage units, and professional organizing, to name a few. When a brand wants to start horizontally integrating, what should they be looking for, or what should they be mindful of?
That's a great question, because we're no different than sort of your typical franchise owner in that we like to chase the next shiny thing that sounds like a good idea. Or I should say, your typical entrepreneur that likes to chase the next shiny thing that sounds like a good idea. And it's very tempting to want to chase that next shiny thing because as entrepreneurs, we're creative beings. We like to we like to go after the next opportunity. So for us, the key for us was if it makes sense for our business, for our franchise owners, for our customers, and it's something that we can easily do given our existing infrastructure, then we'll move forward with that opportunity. And one service offering that we added when we first got kind of into it was moving services. We were doing junk removal strictly out of the gates, and we had enough customers asking us to do moving, and we were turning it away for so long that we were like, okay, let's try it. And we messed it up pretty badly, and we were leaving bad brand impressions because we weren't experienced movers when we first tried to get into that realm. And so we had to consciously make the decision, okay, we're going to be trucks and labor, not just haulers. We're going to be, movers and haulers before we could, step into that space. And so, there's a saying, if you try to be everything to everybody, you end up being nothing to no one. And I think that holds true. You don't want to be a mile wide and an inch deep with your service offerings. You want to sort of be recognized as an authority and an expert in your core service before you decide to add some auxiliary or ancillary services or products to help boost your top line growth.
That's excellent advice. Franchising any concept has its challenges and growing pains. What were yours? What were the lessons that you would give others who want to take their brand to the franchise model?
Well, I think the biggest thing, the most important thing, if you're considering to franchise to expand your business, you have to first and foremost have a successful pilot operation. At least one, if not more than one, has to be successful and profitable and systemized. Because the reason somebody wants to franchise or should want to franchise is because they want to expand their brand faster than if they were to try and expand it themselves. Meaning they're limited on either financial resources, they're limited on management resources, or they're limited on time because they want to expand quickly. We were limited on all three. We had, bootstrapped our business. We didn't have a big management team, and we wanted to grow very quickly. And so that's why franchising made sense for us to pursue, in terms of growing. The importance of what your business needs to be if you're going to franchise it, it needs, like I said, it needs to be systemized. You need to be able to train somebody on how to run the business as effectively as you do, a complete stranger on how to run the business as effectively as you do, and you have with your model business. Your business has to be profitable. In other words, if somebody's buying a franchise from you, they have to be able to make a return even after you collect a royalty from them. And then, of course, it has to have some sort of credibility. So maybe media recognition or awards or some sort of third-party credibility or recognition that would make it a compelling, differentiating brand or product or storefront that somebody would want to invest in. And so those are the kind of criteria needed to be able to franchise your business. But then equally important is remembering that franchising is a whole nother industry and business in and of itself. So if you're a sandwich maker or a barber shop or a boutique store or in our case a moving and hauling company, you may know that side of the business inside and out. But franchising is like starting a brand new business from scratch, because now you're in the business of selling franchises, you're in the business of supporting franchises, you're in the business of growing that franchise network. And I think a lot of people have these sort of idealized expectations of, oh, franchising, it's passive income, you make money from royalties and all this sort of thing, but you're making a very small percentage of a lot of people's revenue, and so you have to have a lot of franchisees for that percentage to become sizable. And you better believe that when a franchisee buys your franchise, they're expecting you as the franchisor to deliver a significant amount of value for their investment. So those are some things I think a lot of people overlook or maybe neglect to think about before they decide to kind of pursue franchising for their business. Excellent.
Lastly, Nick, you literally wrote the book on working smarter, not harder, and having fun. It's aptly named The Effortless Entrepreneur. How can entrepreneurs build a fun, quirky brand for themselves?
Well, I think the most important part initially is to remember that you're starting a business to have fun. You're starting a business because you're not wanting to follow a traditional career path, or you're passionate about this idea that you're launching into. And so if you keep that at the forefront on the key element of your culture and values, you're not going to get away from that. Obviously the notion of an effortless entrepreneur is a little bit of an oxymoron, because there's certainly a lot of effort that goes into becoming successful at it. But I think what really it boils down to is sort of the notion of flow. You know, if you're in the zone, you think of a pro athlete or a great artist or entertainer, when they're at their best, when they're at their peak performance, it appears to all onlookers that it's really effortless. You know, when Tiger Woods was in his prime, you know, his drives, his putts, his chips, they looked effortless, even though he was putting in all kinds of work behind the scenes, and he was focused the day of, and God knows what types of anxiety he was going through. And so, you know, as entrepreneurs, you know, we're born with this ability to take a risk, to embrace change, to have a vision and help lead others. But then, of course, there's skills that have to go into that to allow you to become ultimately successful. And so I think if somebody wants to have a fun, enjoyable business, it has to start with what their goals are, what their vision is, what their values are, and then just pursue it and remember that it's a roller coaster. There's going to be down times, there's going to be up times, but look at it as you know, just like a pro athlete or an artist or a musician would. Look at it as your craft. The element of being an entrepreneur in and of itself is your craft, just like an artist or an athlete or entertainer would look at their sport, their art, or their musical instrument as their craft as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate you joining me and answering some questions for my book. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Looking forward to reading it.
How can people get a hold of College Hunks when they have a bunch of junk that needs to get removed?
So it's real simple. Our College Hunks hauling junk and moving website, we've shortened it down to collegehunks.com. You can visit us on the web. You can learn about our franchise opportunities. You can request moving or hauling service. And, of course, we have all of our social media connections on there as well. And if they're interested in the book, TheEffortlessEntrepreneur.com is a link where they can order the book as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Nick. You have a great day, man.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
See ya.